Excellent. Someone's connecting. Okay.
Hola.
Hola. So welcome to another episode of Latino World Travelers virtual travel parties. Unfortunately, our guest speaker today won't be able to be with us, but we have Radaisy here who's gonna welcome us to Cuba and tell us her experience in Cuba. So we don't have a picture, but just hear her out. And she went 4 years ago, right? So tell us about your story.
Yes, so I went in June 2016. It was kind of a graduation gift for myself, graduated college. It was very spontaneous, actually. I traveled with a group of people that I didn't know. So it was organized by a friend of mine. Her name is Annabelle. She's a videographer and a photographer. And so we have a mutual friend in common. She invited me to the trip. It was amazing. I met so many people on the trip, both locals and the people that were traveling like with us. So we started in Havana, and we stayed in like in a barrio right outside of Havana called La Lisa. And we also traveled to Santiago de Cuba, which was amazing. It was not planned at all. And something that was like really cool was that we kind of had to act like we were Cubanas, even though we were American, because we used the public transportation that Cubans use to travel to Santiago de Cuba, and I think that was illegal. So we had to play it off like we were Cubanas the whole time. Every time we would speak English, like one of the locals that were hanging out with us, like they would pinch us so we could stop talking English. It was so funny. The trip to Santiago de Cuba was very long. It was like about like I want to say it was like a 12-hour bus ride. But it was memorable because we stopped in so many different places around Cuba, and we saw like so much different like architecture. We learned a little bit about the history. It was super nice, super cool. What else? I don't know. What else do you want to know?
So how much did the bus cost, and did you pay with CUC, which is the currency that we transfer to, or the currency that they use? I think it's CUP. I can remember.
So yeah, the currency was kind of confusing at first because what they use Cuban pesos. The locals use Cuban pesos, and travelers use Cuban dollars. So what happens is we exchange our American dollars into Cuban dollars, which can also be transferred into Cuban pesos. So $1 US equals, I mean, this was back in 2016. I'm not sure if it's still like that now, but $1 American dollar equals 1 Cuban peso, and 1 Cuban peso equals 24. I'm sorry. One American dollar equals 1 Cuban dollar, and 1 Cuban dollar equals 24 Cuban pesos, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So the bus cost 10 Cuban dollars, which is 10 US dollars, essentially.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
it's expensive for them because they have to pay 40 pesos of their.
Yeah, it was. For us, it was super inexpensive, but for them, it was a little bit expensive because most people there, they get paid 20 Cuban dollars a month for their job. Everyone makes about the same money, no matter, what profession you had.
Okay. And what did you do in Santiago de Cuba?
So in Santiago de Cuba, we stayed in a casa particular, which is kind of like an Airbnb, but just without, being online. So that would cost about $20 a night. It was pretty affordable. It's just like staying like in someone's house. It was on a second level, and then the family lived on the first floor level. So when we were there, we were actually hanging out with a couple of locals because my friend Annabelle had been there before. So she had already met friends there, and they were the ones that invited us to Santiago de Cuba. So we hung out with his family. We visited his family and his family's lands. We also, we visited, we bought some Cuban cigars from a family friend who worked in a cigar,
factory?
Yeah, I guess. We I visited this restaurant called what was it? La Canasta, which was so cool because it was, so the food in particular, I'm a big food person. I like to travel for food. And I was a little bit underwhelmed with a lot of the restaurants in Cuba. Well, the reason I learned was that a lot of them are government funded. And so like the food is like, like they use a lot of like government cheese and government, the ingredients weren't that great. But the private restaurants that people had mostly in their homes were amazing. So La Canasta was one of them. We randomly like walked into it one day and it was so cool. It's themed, it's like a basketball theme. It has a garden theme and a basketball theme at the same time. And the owner, we found out he was a coach. He was a professional basketball coach and manager in Cuba and in Santo Domingo. So he would like travel back and forth. So he hosted us. He was very personable, invited us in. Everything on the menu was delicious. So that was definitely one of the highlights.
What did you eat when you say everything in the menu? Like, what was the food?
So I was obsessed with these little, I forgot what they're called, but they look like mofonguitos. And inside it had like tuna. I never had tuna in DR, so I thought it was really interesting that they eat tuna in Cuba. So these little mofonguitos were delicious. The tostones are really good. Their moro negro is delicious. Their ropa vieja is delicious. It's very similar, honestly, to Dominican cuisine and Puerto Rican cuisine. I felt like I was kind of like in DR, but like an extension of DR. I felt like we were like all related because we look alike and we kind of have like a similar dialect from Spanish.
Yes, definitely the dialect, because when I went there, they asked me, "Are you from Santiago?" Many times, Santiago de Cuba, because the accent of Santiago de Cuba people and Dominican Republic is almost the same.
Yeah. I noticed that too. I loved it because I didn't realize how long Cuba was. And Santiago de Cuba is very close to Haiti. So we actually hiked up to this really big mountain. It's called the La Gran, what is it? La Gran Piedra. So it's this huge rock in Santiago de Cuba. We took a Jeep, like we had to drive up a while, like maybe like an hour up. And on the way there, we actually found a hitchhiker, un profesor de Havana de Cuba, who was super nice, super cool, muy amable, super simpático. He rode in the bus with us and he was just amazing. He was just like telling us what it's like to live in Cuba, what it's like to be a professional in Cuba. So he rode on the bus with us on the way up. Once we got there, we hiked up actually to the top of the rock. On the top of the rock, it was very, very foggy, but you can actually see Haiti from the top of the rock, which was super cool. Once we were there was a woman with her son, and they were selling like handmade, like handcrafted arts and pictures that they would draw.
Yes.
So from there, we were able to see Haiti, and we like took some incredible pictures. Yeah, that was one of the highlights actually in Santiago de Cuba as well.
Nice. And so you went to Santiago, and then where else did you go? And what did you do there?
So in Santiago de Cuba, we mostly hung out with the locals. We visited restaurants. We were just like hanging out, like the same way we would do when I would go back home in DR in the summertime, just hang out with people, meet people.
So people were very welcoming.
Yeah, very welcoming, very simpático. When we came back, I really mostly spent my time in Havana and Santiago de Cuba. I didn't really get to stop in any of the like other towns, not for any extended amount of time. We would just like stop, get something to eat, take some pictures, and get back on the bus because it was a very long ride. So yeah, we were like anxious to get there at a certain point.
So in Havana, what did you do? Where did you go? Where did you eat? Did you go clubbing? I know they have a big club scene there.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't remember specific places that we went to, like the names of it. But I know that on the first night, we actually spent the whole night on what's it called? Like right by the water. En
Malecón.
Malecón. En Malecón. So we we had like a little radio, and we spent the whole night just drinking and dancing and having fun in the Malecón. There was this one restaurant that we went to. It was a rooftop restaurant. I don't remember the name. I'm so sorry. But the food was pretty decent there. It was good. It was in Old Havana. We walked around Old Havana a lot. We took a lot of pictures. I do remember learning that Americans were not allowed to stay in the hotels in Old Havana. So,
Oh.
yeah, because at the time, I don't know if it's like that still. I don't know if it's still like that, but at the time, you know, Americans could only travel there for specific reasons. It had to be one of the 12 reasons. So I picked I was there for educational purposes. I mean, nobody even asks you, so I don't know what the big deal was. But I went inside one of the hotels just to see what it looked like. It was beautiful. It's like old and vintage. It's amazing. It looks like it's like plucked from a different era. So just we did a lot of walking around, a lot of just sightseeing. I don't remember specifically a lot of places that I went to. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No worries. We're here to learn from each other.
Yeah.
So I went to Cuba as well. And when I went for 12 days, I believe. I went to Trinidad, which is in the south. A beautiful place. The beach, really, really nice. Much better than Varadero Beach. Because Varadero was a little cold, the water temperature itself, to my preference. So when I went to the south to Trinidad, it was amazing. It's a very small, quaint town. They have the city center, and everybody goes to the center because Cuba has a very limited internet. And
Yes.
for you to have internet access, you have to buy a little car, which you have to ask around where to get a little car.
I remember.
Connect to internet, and then you have to walk around town to find where is the spot
Yes.
where they have internet. Now, if you see a corner and there is a lot of people there on their phones, that is the spot. That's how you know which spot has an internet there. So you have to connect to some type of Wi-Fi and then put in the code for the car. In Trinidad, they also have a cave club. So you go up a hill, we walked it up, all up, and then when you enter is a cave, and you go down the cave, and the nightclub is down there. It's so beautiful. You feel like you're in another place, and what I found is that they don't play the salsa that I'm used to, the Colombian salsa, the Puerto Rican salsa, Dominican salsa. They have their own kind of salsa, and people dance differently too. So when I try to do my steps, I couldn't dance with them. They dance totally different.
It was good to watch. I'm not the best salsa dancer either, but I tried. It was great to watch and just like feel the energy. There was a lot of reggaeton, a lot of reggaeton.
Yes.
They have a lot of good artists out there as well.
Also, I went on a ride on a horse through the mountains, and it was beautiful. I've never been on a horse before in my life, so
Really?
that was the first time. It was a little scary at first because you need to be able to control it. I'm talking about years ago. When I went through Montreal. That means it was before they even allowed people to go directly from the United States. So, I mean, the government still knows that you went.
Yeah.
Pretend that they don't know, but they still know. So I went to Montreal. It was Air China, I believe. Huge plane. It was maybe 50% full. So empty pretty much. And back then, they gave you with your flight the visa. I didn't need to look for visa. I didn't need to do anything. As soon as I get in the flight, they ask everybody, "Oh, do you need visa? Do you need visa?" And I say yes, and they give you a little piece of paper.
That's very, very similar to how I traveled there, actually. We booked to Montreal, and then from Montreal, we went to Cuba. Same thing coming back, and it was through Air China también. And that was my first time using Air China, and I have to say I was very, very impressed with their plane. It was beautiful, it was large, it was clean, and it was almost empty. It was the first time I ever flown on a plane where I had like so much space to like lay across. I wasn't asked. I think the visa was included or something. I remember I had no issues with visa.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to Cuba, they didn't stamp my. I don't know if this is normal, but they didn't stamp my passport,
Mm-hmm.
which
They
I
don't
thought was
stamp it unless you request it.
okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Coming back, uh, so I flew to Montreal, and then I flew from Montreal to New York. So in actuality, like nobody knew in the USA that I was traveling to Cuba. But when I was coming into the States, the custom protection people, they asked me like if I had like any alcohol or anything inside my bag, and I told them, oh yes, I have. I told them I have Cuban cigars and I have like Cuban rum, and he was like, oh, you were in Cuba? I said yes. He said, why were you in Cuba? I said I was in Cuba for educational purposes. He's like, yes, that's what everyone says. I, I I had one of my 12 reasons like ready right away in case they like try to interrogate me for any reason.
I went because of cultural exchange.
Yeah, yeah.
And it helped that I was a Spanish teacher as well. So when I went. So.
Absolutely. I remember that was around the time, I think Obama was the one that was still in office. Yeah, he was definitely still in office. That was June 2016, and he made it easier for us to travel as Americans. And then Trump came in, and I don't know what the situation is like anymore right now.
My brother went, I want to say 2 months ago.
Okay.
And he had no issues. He flew through JetBlue.
Okay.
And then to Miami, and then in Miami he flew, I want to say Delta, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I can't confirm.
Still the same.
And then he got the visa when he arrived in Miami.
Okay.
And it was, I think it was $100.
Okay. I remember my flight wasn't that expensive either. I probably didn't pay more than like $450 coming and going from Montreal to Cuba. I remember it was on sale. That's why I was able to go.
Oh, never mind. He took JetBlue. His girlfriend took Copa. That was the difference. She was coming from the R.
Okay.
Yes. So what else did I do? I also went to Viñales. In Viñales, you get to see the cigar farms, and they roll it in front of you. They show you the production and how it is done. We also went, which I forgot the name, this rock that is prehistoric rock, and it's very beautiful and colorful. Everybody takes a picture there and takes the picture with the buey. How do you say buey in English?
Buey? I don't know what that
is. Yeah,
the
animal that is like very big, and like they use it for farming and stuff.
I'm not sure.
Does anybody know how to say buey? What's the animal? Oh, ox, steer, ox.
Probably.
Yeah, that's what it says on Google. So they have one of there for photo ops. Like you could get on top of it, take a picture, and feel like you're in the farming industry.
Yeah, a true, authentic Cuban experience.
Yes. I also went to Santa Clara, and in Santa Clara, they have the Che Guevara Mausoleum. So you could take pictures outside. They have a memorial inside. You could go inside. And that one, I just stopped there, to be honest. When I was on my way back from Trinidad, heading back to Havana, we just did a pit stop there for like about an hour, and that was more than enough time.
Okay.
So,
yeah, there's so many little towns in Cuba that I wish I had more time, because I only had about a week. that I wish I had more time, and Trinidad definitely was one of them. I have to say transportation was not the easiest. Well, it was in Havana because we used something, I think it was called, ¿cómo era que se llamaba, Anabel? El colectivo, taxi colectivo, which is, you pay like $1 and it takes you from like one side of the city to another. Hi, Anna. So that was easy, but like to get from one town to another, it was kind of pricey. Like taxis, they charge you like they charge you in US dollars. Well, they charged us in US dollars to take like private taxis.
I attempted to get a bus via Azul, but when I went, I didn't think, getting it in advance or anything. I just showed up and I'm like, okay, do you have anything? And they said no, but there were so many taxis outside and people fighting to like for us to pick them. So we're like, okay, who do we like? So we just picked a taxi driver and he became our taxi driver for the entire time. He was amazing. So he took us on the long trips. And it was really good. So,
oh, that's great. He probably knew a lot of information too. That usually tends to happen in countries like these. Like you meet a taxi driver and he ends up being like your permanent tour guide for the rest of your trip.
Yes, definitely. Now we also went, when we were in Havana, we went to La Fábrica del Arte. So the cool thing about it, well, I don't know if it's cool, but when you go in, they give you like a little car that allows you to consume certain amount of foods and certain amount of drinks. So to make sure that you don't overexpend, don't overeat or over anything, because in Cuba, everything is limited. So they want to make sure you follow the rules for that country. So you go in and they have many art installations. They have music. They had actually, when I went, they had a concert inside and it was a DJ from Brooklyn and the girlfriend of the DJ was Dominican.
Wow.
So I was like, what? A small world, because I was coming from New York. So
I did not see any other Americans while I was out there.
Yeah.
He
said that he flies there once a month because they ask for different events. They request him for different events.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. I didn't run into American tourists, but we did run into like French tourists, Israelis. A lot of Europeans love going to Cuba, and Canadians. A lot of Canadians too. Yeah.
I also stay in an Airbnb like you. Every single one of the places that I stay, it was Airbnb. The one in Trinidad was the best because he had a rooftop. So the night we arrived, he was with the whole family in the rooftop drinking with a licuadora. He's like, what do you want? Let's get this party started. Like, como si fuéramos familia.
Who was the
Airbnb host, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so much.
And all of them were doctors and lawyers and like,
Yeah.
And he's like, yes. He even, he asked us if we wanted them to cook dinner for us one day. And they made lobster, but humongous lobsters.
Wow. They gave you 5-star service.
And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Because I went to Cuba with the mindset of expect the worst and the least, because everybody always say horror stories about going there. Mm. So I guess I have my expectations so low that everything that I experienced surpassed my expectations. So I was feeling amazing on that trip.
Yeah.
I had a blast. Everybody was great. Wherever we went, the food was really good. So when people tell me, oh, they went to Cuba and the food sucks, I'm like, where did you go? Because where I went, it was delicious and it was big portions and it was, so I'm like.
How did you like pick the restaurants that you went to?
So one of them, those little, no, it's not like a motoconcho, but it's like two people sit in the back and the guy just rides a bike, almost like.
Yeah.
I just asked one of them, oh, can you take me to a good restaurant? and he took me half an hour far, I guess, to where the locals live.
Yeah.
There were no tourists there, and it was huge plate with like the top. I was like, mejor que Santo Domingo.
Yeah, the food again, like when we were in Havana walking around, like the places that we would go into were not really all that. It's just like a bunch of like little cafes, but like those private restaurants were where like I really enjoyed the food. And most of them are like home in the home, but it's still a restaurant. It's weird, but it's cool because it makes you feel like you're just like, you know, in your tia's house and they're cooking for you. You just have to pay them. But it wasn't really that expensive.
Yes. Where else did you go?
Let me see. We went to a beach. I forgot the name of the beach in Santiago de Cuba. So in Santiago de Cuba, there were no tourists at all. I felt again like I was just in DR. So we went to this beach where the sand was kind of like just like pebbles, like black pebbles. It wasn't like really sand.
Yeah.
We went there, spent some time there. It looks like we're having some issues on Instagram Live. They can't hear.
It's because you can hear both at the same time. It's okay. Maybe they can come into Zoom. It's better to Zoom. So the airport, did you have to wait a long time at the airport to go through customs when you arrived?
No, I didn't have to wait a long time. Did you?
I waited 10 minutes maybe.
Yeah, like normal.
Because the plane was half empty, so.
Yeah, I didn't have enough time. We weren't waiting a long time. The first thing I noticed when I got to Cuba, in the airport, I went to the bathroom and there was no toilet paper. There's like no toilet paper anywhere in the country. I don't know why, but a lot of times I had to like ask businesses for some like paper to use as toilet paper. I don't know if that was something that you bumped into.
If what?
Was that something that you bumped into, like black toilet paper?
Just when I stop at places, I always have to give 25 cents for toilet
Okay.
paper. But I always carry wipes, so that helped.
Well, yeah, noted. That's something that I will always do moving forward, especially Cuba.
Yes. I also went zip lining when I went to Viñales. We did the tour and then we told the guy, oh, can we do something adventurous? And he took us to zip lining. And that was my first time ever doing zip lining. After that, I've done it a couple of times.
Wow. I've done it so many times, but I didn't do it in Cuba for some reason.
Yes.
In Cuba. Yeah, I really took more like the live like a local route in Cuba. I didn't really go like to a lot of places, honestly, just walking around like the vecindario. We did go dancing to this one bar in Havana. I forgot the name of it, but it's a local spot. They make really great mojitos there. I remember that. Everyone knows how to dance in Havana. So it was a good learning experience.
Is it, what's the name of it? El Floridita. No, that's where they have the daiquiris.
I remember
they write the names, like the names of the people, they write it on the walls.
I'm not sure. I don't remember that. I don't think
I'm forgetting the name of that place too. Jesus, it's the most famous place in Cuba.
It is the most famous place, but it's the worst.
What's the name of it?
The worst mojito and the most expensive mojito I have tasted in Cuba.
What's the name of it? So
La Bodeguita del Medio.
La Bodeguita del Medio. And which one is the best?
Well, my best mojito, I actually travel around Cuba, the whole entire country. There's
Welcome,
a place that is called Baracoa. And actually, when I went to the restaurant I told the guy, I was like, listen, I went to La Bodeguita del Medio and they have told me that that's the best mojito. And I left crying because I spent so much money and it was the worst mojito I have ever tasted ever in my life. So I actually told the guy to make me a mojito, and I was going to record him, and if in case he didn't do it good, I would just show his picture and his video everywhere, because he was telling me how he likes Dominican comedy, because they love Dominican comedy over there. So I'm like, yeah, and you will be one of them if you don't prepare the mojito for me. And he did really good. And then when I was like traveling around Baracoa, he would tell everybody in all the restaurants, like, listen, she like it like this. And everybody was just, creating the mojito for me.
So much pressure for the best mojito.
Yeah.
And that was in Baracoa, you said, right?
Yeah. Because, they don't have lime. They have like, their lime is very limited. So they use like this Coca-Cola or Sprite, and it's very bad. And they put so much sugar that it's ridiculous. So I don't know. It was the
What's
worst.
the name of the place?
The place that I went in Baracoa,
Uh-huh.
I have to search it for it, but
okay, just let us know whenever you, right? There is also a bar that you can see the sunset from there, and it's called Bar La Torre. I've heard. I didn't go myself, but I've heard that that's a really good bar. And there is a hotel too that has a rooftop, and you can see the sunset from there and the whole city. Did you guys go there?
I haven't been, but the one that you said that you can see, it's actually in the Malecon, and like you can see the very fancy restaurant there. But I haven't been. It's just around the Malecon and the rooftop. One of the casas I stay at I've been there 4 times already. But the last time I went there, I was staying in one, like next to one of the Hilton hotels, and like that building was very high, so you could see everything. And then the time that I went with Radaisy, before she came, we stayed in a casa particular, and we were staying like in the 7th floor, so we could see everything from there. Because the buildings most of them are pretty high.
Very nice. Did you take any dancing classes?
So I'm one of the ones that just sit there and watch. But we have a friend that her name is Stephanie. That's Radaisy's friend, that the one that went with us. And when she goes there, I guess she takes some dance classes over there.
Very cool. Other restaurants too that they say are good, I'm not sure, is La Guarida, Doña Eutimia. Did you guys go to any of those? Any restaurants? El Paladar, I've heard about it too.
So normally, since I have a lot of locals friends, I actually get out of the Old Havana to eat and stuff like that, and it's actually way cheaper. Because like Radaisy said, we take like a taxi, like we stop it like we are Cubans, and it costs like $1 or like 23 pesos, something like that. And then we go to La Lisa. That's where Radaisy stay at when she came in.
That's
and
the
La Lisa,
That's the neighborhood, La Lisa?
That's like a town in La Habana, where it's like 1 hour drive from the old Havana.
Okay.
And there's a restaurant that I always like to go to. It's the name is Paladar Conde Baraca or something like that. And that's where Daisy took the how do you call it? Lo mofonguito with the tuna fish.
Yeah. It was really good.
And I've been there so much, and the women, every time I come back, the same women still working there.
Wow.
So she she knew me from the first time I came, and then I went back the next year, and then that's where when Radaisy went there. Wow. And we can, like, we will go, all of us, to eat, and it will be like more than 20 people or something like that, because it was like it was 9 of us plus my friends plus other people that we met in the trip, so we would just ask them to come and join us.
Yes.
And the most that I have paid for the food, it's like $15 for more than 20 people. And like in Havana, in the old Havana, you go to a place, and for a coffee they charge you $5.
Yeah.
So it's actually depending where you go, you know, especially when they hear that you're like a foreigner. Mm-hmm. It's like your money for them, so they rip you off, and they rip you off.
Mm-hmm. But that's in every country, I guess.
No, but not like in Cuba. In Cuba, it's extremely, it's too much.
Wow. When I went, I actually exchanged money into CUP and pretended I was Cuban.
Yeah, same.
And the guy, the taxi, he's like, don't talk, just in case. And he would do the talking.
Yeah, because, you know, it's for me, it's frustrating, the situation over there. Because all these taxis, the ones that we take, that they're like fancy, you know, like that all the tourist takes, it costs like $30 for 1 hour.
Yes.
They're getting all the money. But what about the other people? You know, they don't get anything, you know, they just, and there's like, that's why, like, I don't know, I like to contribute to the people that really needs it, because those people that are there, that you pay them $30, they will be there forever, and all the tourists will go in the same cars and will pay them. But what about the rest? Yeah. They also have old cars. They're not that cute, that, you know, fancy and whatever, but and it's cheaper.
Yeah. What sometimes people do is that they bring things to give it out. For example, when I went, I brought baseball balls, and whenever I saw little kids playing outside, I gave them a baseball ball, and we will be like, "Hey, come here!" And then we will throw them the ball. They will be so happy to get baseball balls. They're original, like I had a friend who used to work in with a team, so he donated a whole bunch. All of my luggage was almost baseball balls.
I do the same. When I go there, I just pack everything, and like I have friends there, so it's always good to bring them stuff. And you know, one of the things that about Cuba that I don't know, it opened my eyes, you know, because we hear Cubans baseball and you know, like boxing, and that's all we hear in the news. But Cubans, if you see, they're more interested in like soccer. So in the streets, everywhere I went, the kids were playing soccer. And I have like a bunch of pictures of that. And I met this little kid when I went there the first time. Radaisy, I don't know if you met Christopher.
Yes, that his grandfather is a GYN, and he wants to be a GYN too.
I don't know. I don't remember that. But so I don't know if it was Christopher. But Christopher, I met him when he was like 7, I think. And every time I go there, I bring something for him. And you ask them, what do you want? What do you need? And they're like, that's what I like about them. You know, like in the art, everybody will be like, oh, bring me this, bring me that, you know. Over there, they tell you, don't bring me anything. Just with you being here, it's good enough. And when I went the second time, I got him a soccer ball. And he was, oh my God. He told me that he would put that ball like a trophy. It was, and like right now, like things have been changing a lot. So they're more open to the internet and all that stuff. So now you don't have to go to these public spots to use the internet. Now they have 3G in their phones, so they can like connect themselves through their phones. And like most of my friends right now, they like him, the little kid. Now he's like 14, I think. And he always texts me and he's like, Annabelle, when are you coming back? You know, it's so.
Oh. When I was there, I stayed in El Vedado. Vedado is more like
That's where the rich people live.
Yeah, that's where I stay, in someone's house. It was like supposed to be a mansion, and you know, if you stay there, it's like a 10-bedroom house. But the El Gallo, it woke me up at 5 in the morning every day.
You're ready.
So,
but yeah, if you guys,
that was a nice area to stay because they had a lot of restaurants and local spots around there. So
yeah, El Vedado is
outside the touristy area. Then El Vedado is a very safe place to stay.
Yeah, it's very quiet. A lot of mansions. All the houses there are fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's like when you want to see old houses like falling apart and stuff, you go to La Habana Vieja when you want to see, but when you want to like relax and be more quiet and see less garbage in the street, because that's a big thing. I thought that Cuba would be more cleaner and stuff because of the education of the people and whatever. But when you go to La Habana, it smells bad, guys. I don't know.
Well, they have a lot, you know, a lot of visitors. So I guess like the infrastructure of the city, it's not up to par for like so many visitors to come there. Because a lot of people come there to like see pictures. I mean, to take pictures of like all these old buildings and these old cars, which I find, which is pretty ironic because in Old San Juan, en Santo Domingo, ¿cómo que se llama? El lugar de Santo Domingo.
La zona colonial.
La zona colonial, like it's all very similar. It's the same exact architect. The only thing is that Cuba has like the really nice old cars that you won't see it in the rest of the Caribbean.
Something that I learned too is that most people don't take care of their outside of their home, but they take very good care of the inside of their home. Because they say if you take care of too much of the outside, then you show that you have money, and you can't show that you have money. So that's why the outside is mostly neglected. But when you go inside, it's like, wow, this is here. And that another Airbnb I stayed was that the building outside, I was like, where am I coming to? And then inside, it was a completely different thing.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions? I know someone. Did you guys ride the vintage cars? I did. You got to do it for the gram.
Yeah, I did too.
Is it better to change to Canadian dollars before you go? Yes, it is better to get from your bank Canadian dollars, or just Canadian dollars or euros, because if you bring American dollars, they charge you a penalty of 10%. So if you have access to those currencies from your bank directly, so you don't lose money, then make sure make sure you spend the Cuban money you have before coming back, because it's illegal to take it out of the country. So I usually spend it in cigars or whatever from the store, rums in the airport, because it's illegal to bring it. You could bring it, but if you get caught. I don't know what will happen.
I'm glad they didn't cut me.
The beaches, how were for you? How were they for you?
Annabelle doesn't like beaches. She's so strange.
I like the rivers, the waterfalls, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I always end up in the beaches. I don't know. But well, the ones in Havana, I went to one and it was pretty disgusting.
I personally didn't like the Varadero one.
Like,
And the Trinidad one was better, but the thing is, like, there is nothing like Dominican Republic. I'm sorry, but there is.
in the place that I saw better beaches are in Baracoa and in Holguín. In Varadero, I feel like that's overrated. In Trinidad, it was okay. In La Habana, it was cool, but then when I got out, like everybody bring their beers and stuff like that, and they leave everything in the sand. So for me, that was pretty disgusting. I left crying. But then other than that, they're nice. But I'm more for me, like I said, I'm more into mountains and rivers and waterfalls.
Yes. Most also to add most when you travel, they require that you have travel insurance. So make sure you have travel insurance and health insurance. Sometimes they will ask you for it, sometimes they won't, but they say they require it. So just make sure you are, you know. Also, download either Google Translate if you don't know how to speak Spanish, and also download the app Triposo or Google Maps or any map that you can have that could work offline. So in case you get lost, you have access to it, to the map. Because if you don't have internet, then how are you gonna have access to a map? Any other recommendations that you guys have?
There's a very nice application on map that is called Maps Me. I don't know if you have heard of it. Mm-hmm. It works. It's the most amazing app when you don't have Wi-Fi. For me.
But you have to download the city before you arrive, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Yeah, I did that for Paris because my internet didn't want to work with T-Mobile. I'm like, T-Mobile, really? I went to Paris, then I went to Egypt. It didn't work in Egypt. The last 3 days in Egypt, it worked. And then when I came back to Paris, it worked. At the end of my trip, I was spending a month there. It didn't want to work at all. So expect the unexpected no matter where you go and be prepared. Any other recommendations or questions that you may have? No. I may have some questions. No more questions? All right. So I guess that's it for today. For Cuba, if you have any questions, make sure that you can message us at any time. Latino World Travelers in Instagram, and also join our Facebook group. You're able to ask questions about any place that you're going, and it's fun. I mean, I post memes and I post questions. I post my travels and people post theirs as well. Articles, flight deals, anything. This trip to Cuba was a flight deal that I posted in the group, and then 3 people decided, oh, I want to join you, and they came with me on the trip to Cuba. Wow. So that's how I did it. And people that I had never traveled with before at all. And they just said, oh, if you're going, let's go. And we went. Yeah.
You know that I feel like everybody was so afraid to go to Cuba because of if you're American, you cannot go, or like you will get in trouble or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why when I decide to go, like 9 of my friends or like 8 of my friends decide to join me,
Mm-hmm.
because I went there before, and then everybody was saying, oh, so you didn't have any problems, whatever. Okay, so let's go. How do you do it? Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why a lot of American stop or didn't get to travel, and they're afraid to travel because they think they will get in trouble for going.
I mean, you could always go through Mexico, through Panama, through Dominican Republic. I went through Canada when I went. And I went before they had lifted before Obama was,
Yeah.
that he said, oh, people could go. I went before that. And I didn't get in trouble. So now I believe he's more flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first time I went with one of my friends, and then he was like, when we came back here, because, well, to me, they stamped my passport. They didn't even ask me if I wanted to get my passport stamped.
Mm-hmm.
So they stamp it, and then my friend and I are in the line, and he's like, Annabelle, we're going to get in trouble because we're not supposed, because we went before Obama and all that stuff. And I'm like, what is the worst that it could happen? Like, you know,
Getting arrested.
he was like, no, I'm gonna read the paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if you do that,
Then it
there,
invalidates the passport.
yeah, you will get arrested for that.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Annabelle, for all of your information, and Radaisy too for jumping in last minute and making this happen. Thank you so much.
It's my
But I
pleasure.
hope we provided people with a wealth of information if they want to go to Cuba. And tomorrow we are heading to South Africa. We're going to have Freddie introducing us to this country in the continent of Africa. So tomorrow is going to be at 3 p.m. EST, 12 p.m. Pacific time. So I hope you can join us tomorrow for South Africa. And on Saturday, we're going to Morocco. So I can't wait for that. Next week, we have our whole lineup. So I'm going to be posting it probably on Saturday so you could see what countries we're going to cover. So we're going to do this all the way until the end of this month. So I hope you can join us every day. Yes, every day is a different country, a different experience. We're going to have also some expertise from South America. So I hope you can join us for that too, because we're going to cover Bolivia, Uruguay, Paraguay, Chile, Argentina, because I want to make sure that our countries are represented as well and that we get information so we can travel to them. So, thank you for being here, and see you mañana.
Bye. Thank you.
Adios.
Thank you again. See you tomorrow.